Hello and welcome to another exciting episode following me, Almost Immortal, as I play All the Mods 9 to the sky. You might notice from the intro that not a lot has changed on my base. I have upgraded all of these reactors to nitro, so now we're getting up to 500 million FE stored for each of them, and generating 435,000 FE per tick. So yeah, that's a lot of power. It'll keep us going for a little while. And since we got refined obsidian in the last one, I've set up the refined obsidian to turn into enriched obsidian and go into the infusing factory. So now we can make the last alloy, which is the atomic alloy. And with that, I've now started using the ultimate universal cables because we can get them. On top of that, I've also upgraded the furnace to Melodium because it's much faster. And I've also put a flux hammer here next to the click machine, and I've put the click machine down here. So whenever I want to do anything, I can just feed them in straight into this, which will then crush them down and they'll get auto-sieved. And the last thing I did was set up this little area here with phytogenic insulators. I saw this little setup on the All the Mods GitHub, and I believe it's KJM's phytogenic insulator farm. So I haven't set it up fully yet, and this is just going to prepare for another episode. I'll show you there's nothing in these yet, they're not powered or anything, but when I do get them set up, I'll show you how I do and what it is we're going to do with them. What I would like to do today is focus entirely on optimizing bees. I've let the draconic bees sit in these here. I've got all 5 of these set up. And we have 1,103 draconic dust. I've also crushed a load of draconic bees. And here we are. We've got 22 very high productivity genes, 13 strong endurance, 18 any weather tolerance, and 16 metaternals. So yeah, we can keep breeding these if we want to. I haven't done yet, but I might pop some more in there. And yeah, so this is all ready to optimize. What I want to do now is go through all of the bees that I want to fill up each of these hives and show you exactly how I get them, how we breed them to get the ones we want, and work our way all the way up to the Stellarium bee and Soul Infused bee, as well as the Flux Dust bee, and when we do get mechanism going with the reactor, we'll eventually get the radioactive bee, but that won't be today. So to kick things off, let's look at the bees we want to get first. There are some bees that come from similar beehives, and other bees that come from only specific beehives. So we're going to start with the ones that come from similar places. But the first thing I want to do is set up a couple of beehives just in a very dark place so that we can try and get a skeletal bee. So this says that we need to keep the hives well lit to prevent this guy moving in. So what I'll do is I will pop a beehive over in this corner, or maybe 2 or 3 of them. I'll cover it in cobblestone, and we'll just sit and wait and hope that it attracts them. So there we go. That's how I'll set them. So I will just lay a rim like that of cobble, and then I'll just build it up and then cover the top. There's no lights in there, and then if I do want to get in and out, I can fly in through the bottom. And there we go. And as I say, we can just go in through the bottom here. Stays nice and dark, and we'll just check on it every so often. I've also popped a trapdoor there, so I can get in and out, but the bees cannot escape. So while we wait for our skeletal bee, the next ones to look at are the things like ashy mining bee, blue banded, chocolate mining bee, and mason bee. So we need gravel, sand, or dirt, oak, cherry, or acacia, sand, gravel, dirt, and then stone or reed. So I made a gravel, sand, dirt, cherry, and stone nest. That should be enough to get one of each. I'll pop these just up here. And then I'll cover them with glass. There we go. So I just come in here and I will give these a honey treat each. And wait for the bees that I want to come. In the meantime, let's have a look at the other bees we want. So we will want a crystalline bee, which we just need a quartz nest for. And that's that. We need to use that in the nether, I believe. We want a sweat bee, which needs a snow nest. We'll make that. That one says it needs cold areas, but I don't think it's locked to that into the sky. We'll find out. For a glowing bee, which gets us glowstone dust, we need a glowstone nest. There's that. For an ender bee, we need an endstone nest. Now, I probably didn't need to get one, because they do tend to just fly around the end. But that's okay. If we can't find one, at least we've got the nest. For a slimy bee, we just need a slimy nest. And that's there. For a ghostly bee, we need a soul sand nest. Again, I think that's here in the nether. And then I think that's it for the main nests. The rest of them will come most likely from breeding. I'll just pop the slimy nest and the stone nest there. There we go. So now we just wait however long is left on each of these, about 100 seconds each, some less. And we'll capture the bees that come through. There's a blue-banded bee. That's a chocolate mining bee. There's our slimy bee. We have a leaf cutter bee. I'll save that to the side in case we need it later. There's our sweat bee. And then there's our ashy mining bee. But we only need one. So the type of bees we've just got then don't actually produce anything at all that we might need for resources. Whereas the ones such as the quartz one and glowstone do. So I'm going to go get 2 of each of those, whereas I only need 1 of the last ones. So give me a second, I'll nip to the nether and we'll set some more. So now that we're in the nether, we can just place these anywhere really. You just pop them like that, and like that. So a quartz nest, you just need nether quartz. There we go. And then for a glowstone one, we just need glowstone dust. And then the soul sand nest needs ghast tears. There we go, that's our first crystalline bee. As I say, I want 2 of each of these, because then I can breed them and get many more. That was the glowstone bee. That is a ghostly bee. And then we do it again. And there we go. So that's 2 glowing bees, 2 crystalline bees, and 2 ghostly bees. Now from all the bees we just got, we can breed and get the rest. Let me show you how we do all this. I almost forgot the last one, which is an ender bee. Here's the endstone nest, and you just need pot chorus fruit. Here we are. And I'm only getting 1 of those because I'm only going to use it to breed. So before I move on to breeding them, I want to use the gene samples that we've got from crushing the draconic bees to make all of our other bees have the same traits. So it's just as simple as, good reason to keep this. So we'll start with the ghostly bee here. Just pop 1 of these down, use the trait on it, and then pick it back up. And I'll do that until we've got metaternal, any weather tolerance, and very high productivity on all of them. Now that's all of the ones I've got here with very high productivity. Next we'll move on to making them metaternal. And just for the future, I'll put the honey treats with the very high productivity in my dank, just out of the way. There we go, that's all of them metaternal now. And the last one is just to get their weather tolerance to any. And there we go. They're all very high productivity, any weather tolerance, and metaternal behavior. So now we can breed them all and transplant all of these perfect genes to our other bees that we want to get. Now that I can breed them, the first thing I'd like to do is get 5 of each of the ones that I want to make more resources. So that would be like the crystalline, the glowing bee, and the ghostly bee. So we'll start with the ghostly bee, nice and easy. All we do, we pop 1 of each, so we need 2. And then you put down some sort of flower, it can be any flower, and you just have to make sure you've got a bee cage for them to go into. I may have shown you this setup before, but I've got a pipe here, just into an incubator, and the incubator, Babby incubator they're called, has got a export bus from my network, which is set to craft and send honey treats so that it can quickly incubate them, and then those are sent here to a chest. So I want 5 of them, first of all. These will give me the ghast tears. I'll pop them in one of the nests, and then I'll save 1 for breeding. So we need 4 more, and I'll just save 1, take 1 from here. Now I'm just putting the slabs, the feeding slabs, down, and I just want to make you aware of something in case you do something similar to me. So if you decide to do what I've done here, when you put the feeding slab on the bottom one, the item pipe will connect to it. And what happens, you can see here, is the draconic combs that have come from my draconic bees are feeding into it, into any free slot. So you just have to make sure when you do put them down here, you open it up and just make sure that it's gone. And then you just pop these back in. Just something to be aware of. That's the ghostly bees done. As you can see, they're all very high, any weather tolerance, and metaternal behavior. So you can check JEI to see what item it is that they need to produce honey. It's under, I think, flowering. But I've checked this one, and this one needs a soul sand. So I've just popped that into the feeding slab. I'll get on with the glowing bees and the crystalline bees, and I'll catch you back up. So the glowstone bees have been popped in here. The glowing bee with the glowstone there for the feeding slab. I wanted to quickly update you. I'm doing the crystalline bees now, but instead of just doing 4 of them, I've done 9. 4 so that I can fill 5 of the hive up, 5 slots of 1 hive, and another 5 which I can then turn into prosperity bees. You just give a crystalline bee a block of prosperity, or a prosperity block, and it turns it into a prosperity bee. I want 5 of those, fill up a hive, and yeah. So when both of those are done, I will show you how that's done. One thing I can show you, I mentioned, it was either in the last episode or the one before, I made a time in a bottle. Now you can see here, in just a couple of episodes, I've stored 21 hours and almost 20 minutes of time. I did use a couple of minutes when I tried to test something before, but I've got 21 hours and 19 minutes left. And I'll show you how this works. You just crouch, and then right-click on it like that. Right-click on it each time, and it doubles it. So you can see here, this goes much faster than it was before. And it's used almost 10 minutes of my time. Now that's really useful when you've got things like the draconics that you want to speed up, and also later on when we get the chaos bee and we want to get all the parts from that to create better armor and do draconic evolution. So that's my crystalline bees done, and let's turn them into prosperity bees. So you just let them all out, and then you just use a prosperity block on them like that. And then you just catch them again. Now with the very high productivity on there, they'll give us a good source of prosperity. It means we don't have to go looking for it when we do need it. The next bee to look at is going to be a redstone bee. So I just need glowing bee and a chocolate mining bee in there. Chocolate mining bee and glowing bee. And then when you put them in, it shows you over here which one. There we go, I'll leave that to breed. And there we are, a hive of redstone bees. And because we've got one extra redstone bee, we can move on to a lapis bee, which just needs a blue banded bee with redstone. And there we are. That's the lapis. And we'll do 6 again for this, because we need a lapis for a diamond bee. That's a hive full of lapis bees, with a lapis block for it to create honey from. Next, we will look at an iron bee. That's just an ashy mining bee and a crystalline bee. There's the crystalline, and there's the ashy mining bee. Now, you've got to be careful here, because it's just used 2 of mine. But you have to take it out and pop it back in until you get the bee you want here. Brilliant. That's an iron bee. I just thought I'd check on our dark beehives and add some expansion boxes so that I can actually put down the upgrades. And I found one of them has got a zombie. Don't know if I need that for anything, but hey ho, something to grab. Now that the iron bee is done, I'm going to make gold, which is a mason bee and a crystalline. Put that in there. There's the gold bee. Now I'm going to get lots of the gold bees because I need them to squash, because at some point I need them to make the Diorum bees here. So I need to squash them lots until we get enough of the genes to just make an egg. So I'll make maybe 16 of them, just so we've got that. And while I leave that, I also realized that there's another bee I need to get from a nest. I want to make an obsidian bee so that I can make a flux dust bee. But to get that, we need a magmatic bee, which comes from a nether brick nest. So I'm going to make one of those, get some magma cream together, and go to the nether. There's the nest. There's the magma creams. And there's our magmatic bee. Right. So now I've got plenty of gold bees. These are the overflow. I've already filled a hive. And the next one to get is a nickel bee, which is iron and a sweat bee. There's a sweat bee. There's the iron bee. And that's nickel. I'll make 6 of those. 5 for a hive and 1 to breed for Invar. Now that nickel is done, we can do Invar, which is iron and nickel, I believe. There we go, Invar. We'll have 6 of those. Before I put the Invar bees in their beehives, let's get the diamond bees going. That's ender bee and lapis bee. Ender, lapis. And we want many of these. Let's get 16 of them going. Now, when it comes to diamond bees, the reason I want many of them is because to get the next one, ancient bee, we need to give a diamond bee a block of netherite. And we also need diamond bee genes to be able to make the spawn eggs so that we can make other bees, such as this one here, the Soul Infused bee. Here's my Invar hive. Look at that. They're all coming together. We're almost halfway through our hives. And then here's 5 diamond bees. And now we've got enough diamond bees to make our ancient bees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we are. So we've probably got enough diamond bees now. So let's make some emerald bees, which is diamond and slimy. There's a diamond. There's a slimy. Probably just need 5 of these. And there's our emerald bees. So to get withered bee, we're going to need a skeletal bee. So we're still waiting on that. The next one might be a spatial bee, which I think we need 10 of because we want to convert some of them into a Flux bee. So we're going to need a crystalline bee and an ender bee. There we are. And that should get us 10. The spatial bees are all done, so let's pop those out. And we'll turn these into Flux bees. It's coming along nicely, isn't it? Our next one is going to be a Solium bee. But to get that, we're going to need 5 more ghostly bees. So let's breed those. That's those 5. Wonderful. Nope. We have 5 ghostly bees. Here they are. And you just use a Solium dagger and it turns them to a Solium bee. Nice and easy. There we go. And Solium bees just require a Solium block on the feeding slab. And now we'll just make an obsidian bee, which is a magmatic bee and a sweat bee. In here you can see we've got 7 100% redstone, 9 100% diamond, 7 of the invar and 6 of the gold, which should be enough to get what we need. We'll need 5 gold to get the Diorum. We'll need 5 each of the diamond and invar to get the Soul Infused. And then we'll need 5 redstone to get the Flux ones. Let me sort those out. So while I wait for that one to finish, I thought I'd look at the radioactive bee. For that one, needs a Cree bee, which you need to give a regular bee a TNT. That would be very easy had I have kept one, but instead I murdered them. Don't be like me. Save a bee. And I saw on my map there was a skeletal bee just hiding away in here, so we finally got it. Which means we can move these. There's another one. Now that we have a skeletal bee, we need to go get a withered rose. She's just here. And all we do, let that out, use that on it, and catch it again. Because it's a new bee, and we want to make sure it has the best traits, I'll pop it here. And then, those traits we saved earlier in our dank will get out. So that's ready to breed with an ancient bee, so then we can get an all-Melodium bee. As for the obsidian bees we were waiting for, those are finished. And to get the flux dust bee, we're going to need to get some redstone bee spawn eggs, which means we need to crush a lot of redstone bees. And then we can hopefully get the obsidian bee to convert them. Finally got the bee nest to spawn. And we've got a bee here. So all you do, for the Cree bee, you come up, you use that on it, and then you very quickly pick it up so that it doesn't explode on you. Brilliant. I've now given that the honey treats with the traits on it. So it's very high, any weather tolerance, and meternal. And once we're ready to make the radioactive bees, it's there. Next, I will get some redstone bees, purely so that we can get the redstone bee spawn eggs. And we'll crush all these bees once they're all bred. I've got a nice chest here full of bees that I can transfer over now. There's diamond, there's 1 invar, we need more invar, and there's some gold. So we'll get some redstone in there, and then I'll breed the invar ones as well. I've got lots of Invar, redstone and gold bees crushing right now. So it's a good time to get our radioactive bee started. I think we only need 5 of these. There we are. So I improved my bee squashing area. I've put a chest here and a chest here, both with advanced item collectors on. This one blocks any of the squash bee material and collects anything else that might need to get pulled back into the network. This one accepts the squashed bee material, which then gets fed into here, and then I've got an ultimate pipe upgrade on there so that it pops into here. So to get the eggs, the first thing you need to do is, similar to the genes, we use these gene samples with a honey treat, and it makes the honey treat with a gold bee trait on there. And then what you do is you pop that in Babby incubator with an egg there. I'll just let this finish up, but in the meantime, we'll get all of these. That's the gold ones, that's the redstone ones, that's diamond, and that's Invar. So to make the eggs, all you do is pop an egg here, pop your honey treat with the bee there, and then you wait. There we go. That's diamond, gold, redstone, and Invar bee spawn eggs. And we've also got 5 radioactive bees here. Let's pop these in a hive, even though we can't use them just yet. And then for the redstone bees, we will pop those here. And then we just wait for the obsidian bees to hopefully convert them. There we are, that was nice and quick. Flux dust bee, which just needs a flux block to flower. So we'll pop that here. And then I'll get the traits that we've got in here and we'll make them very productive, etc. And that's all of their traits added. Wonderful. So the next one we'll do is Soul Infused bee. So I got it wrong. It was an appetite bee we needed, not a diamond bee. But luckily, we can use the eggs to make appetite bees by giving them a block of appetite, and then we can squash those. So I've decided I'm going to keep the diamond bee spawn eggs just to the side, and I'm just going to breed some more, because then I can keep the traits, and I can put some appetite bees in here, and we can increase our store of appetite. Now while we wait for the appetite bee to finish, we'll have a quick look at the Stellarium bee. Now this requires us to have a quick look into Forbidden and Arcanus. First of all, we want to get a soul, and to get a soul, we need a soul extractor, which you can extract souls from soul sand. To make the extractor, we need Edelwood, or Edelwood. Not entirely sure how it's pronounced. So I've already made the Utrem jar with the Edelwood. I've got some nether bricks in my inventory, and I just need to make a block of quartz. Just like that. And another thing we need is this Clibano core. We need to make a multi-block structure with this that we can then put our gold bee and the soul into. Let me get the items together, and then I'll show you how to use the soul extractor to get the soul and how to use it all. Before I can make the multi-block structure, I need some darkstone, but I don't have that yet. So I am going to make a igneous extruder make darkstone, and it's as simple as an obsidian at the bottom, an igneous extruder there, a lava just there, which we can then cover, and then on this side, just like the other ones, this one is a blue ice. That should start making it. There we go. So I'll do the same as this. I'll get a drawer hooked up and a pipe, and I'll hook it up to the network so that it's being pulled in. That's darkstone. And that's hooked up to the network. And let's just put an acceleration card there so that it pulls it in quick. I'll let that build up in our network for now, and then I will show you how to do the multi-block structure. I've got some things together now, and I am ready to make the multi-block structure. This is something that we're probably not going to use very much, so I'm going to do it over here. First of all, put down a soul sand and use this soul extractor on it, and it pulls the soul out of it. There we go, and when we get one, it just drops like that. You can tell it's working because these lose their little ghostly faces. And then, to make the structure that we're going to use to get the bee egg we want, we need to start with 3 layers. So, the first layer, the bottom, needs polished darkstone bricks in a plus pattern. So that is this, and it will go like that, like that, like that, like that, like that. And then the corners is just polished darkstone. The middle layer has nothing in the center here. We put the Silvano core there, and then you just fill the rest in darkstone bricks, I believe. Okay, it's these ones, just like that in a U shape. And there we are. And then the top is much like the bottom, similar pattern. Boo, boo, boo. And there we are. And then to activate this, we need this Mundabiter dust. You just right click on there like that, and it turns it into the structure. And then when you right click again, you got this here. So you pop some sort of fuel in here, and then we pop that in there, and then we pop that there, and then that converts it for us, which will create the Stellarium bee. Look at that. Nice and easy, really. It's just a little bit of a faff getting the structure up, but hey ho. I'll leave this here in case we need it later. I can't remember if I ever used this when I first played through to the sky, much more than just the bee, but we can always have a look. So as with all the others, I'll release them, give them all the traits they need, and then pop them in a beehive. And that's the Stellarium bees. That's the Soul Infused bee spawn eggs. And now, as you can see, I've got all the treats ready to use on them. For their genes, I will do that, and I will pop them in a hive. There's a Soul Infused block in there. And that's Soul Infused bees. Look at that. We've got so many. And we've got this here for overflow, in case we decide we want to have more of any of them. So we can breed more emerald, diamond, etc. Now, I would like to get them really, really, really fast. And the reason I've left these just going ahead is because we needed the draconic dust. We've got 2,622 of that. What I've done in between doing everything is set up these bee upgrade crafting patterns. For example, to make this, we need fish essence, diamond essence, and squid essence. So I need to go ahead and get squid and fish seeds, set those up in the farm, and stop the diamond from being auto-crafted, and then we can amass some of these. That is just for the Omega upgrade. For the others, we only need items which we already have. One of the items I need to be able to get the fish essence and the squid essence is a soul jar. I need 4 of them for each essence because it uses soulium seeds, which is these, soulium seed base. Now to get the soul jars, we need to get soul glass, and that needs soul dust, which you get from soulstone using an igneous extruder. So we're going to have to set another one up. I've already got a soulium block here waiting. I'll just pop that there. I've moved the extractor across one again, and now I'll make another extruder. And then we just pop that there. Bucket of water on this side, bucket of lava on this side, cover, and then it's just a pipe. And there we are. Soulstone. I'll feed them in the network, and then I'll wait till we've got enough here for us to smelt down so that we can get the soul dust. I was looking at the recipes for both the fish seeds and the squid seeds, and I saw that for the fish seeds we need any fish, and for the squid seeds it's ink sacs. And what you do is you need one of these, a soul extractor. You pop a soul jar in there, and then you just pop the fish in there, and as long as we've got power, it'll start to imbue it with the fish's soul. And one of the good things that I did to prepare, which I didn't do for this, but happened to work out, is the marine fisher. I put in a Omega tier stack upgrade, which allows 2.1 billion items per slot. And it's been sitting here generating thousands of fish and hundreds of ink sacs. So we don't need to go find a squid. We don't need to go fishing. We can just use what we've got here. I need 4 jars for fish and 4 jars for the squid. So I'll leave them to fill up, and then I'll come back and we'll sort out the seeds. And while the soul jars fill, I'm also going to take diamond essence off of the crafter so that this can amass some diamond essence. I've already got plenty of prismarine essence because we haven't been using that for anything. Now all we need is the diamond, the squid, and the fish. All 8 soul jars are now filled. We've got 4 fish and 4 squid. Let me show you how these work. It's exactly the same as when using any of the other items to get the seeds. Just pop them down like this. Pop the essence around just like this. And then use a Solium seed base there. And we'll get the squid seeds. That's squid seeds. And that's fish seeds. Pop both these down. And then I'll just pop them in the network. Give them a load of upgrades. And leave them to go. Now that we've got plenty of each of these essences, we can make some. I'll just make a few Nautilus shells. And then we'll get a couple of stacks of these. So as it turns out, I can make about 2 of these Omega upgrades, which I will do, but they take a while. Look at all these we need. So I'll pop these 2 in the draconic ones, and hopefully we'll start to build up enough draconic dust to be able to make more of the upgrades. So these act as both a simulation upgrade and a block upgrade. So we need to also improve our centrifuges because these won't be good enough to be able to process blocks of combs. What we need for that is a heated centrifuge. The problem with these is they don't give you any wax, so hopefully we've got enough in the network for now to keep us going. So I'll pop the heated centrifuges here. I will give them the upgrades for speed, and then we'll reconnect it. I've been AFKing for a while, and I've managed to get 1 hive filled with the Omega upgrades. So that should be 2, 4, 6, 8, 6, 12, 18, 24. That's over 1,000% it is there of improved productivity. I've only just used the last of them, and I've already got 700 and something. So, yeah, it goes up quite fast once you get it going. And if I use a time in a bottle, it goes up so much faster. Let's give it a use. So that's with a full one. Here we go. You can see that going in. And there you go. You should be able to see that going up. For next episode, I'd like to look into thermal series. And I'd like to look at the phytogenic insulators that I showed at the beginning of this episode. What I want to do is show how to get them up and running and how to get them moving really, really fast, similar to bees. But to do that, I'd like to get a few more bees as well. such as the Twinite bee, the Melodium bee, Dragonsteel bee, energized glowstone bee, and Stellarium bee. And I've got a few more here that I'll need to make those. That's so that I can make the stellar integral component, which has a 12 times scale factor, whereas the one I could probably make at the moment is only a 4 times. So that could increase our productivity quite a lot. And I'd also like to make the Flux Linkage Amplifiers as well. But for these, we'd have to upgrade them each time, and there's Soul Infused, Twinite, Shellite, Dragonsteel, and Abyssal. And on the quests, it says that using the 3 Abyssal Flux Linkage Amplifiers alongside a Dragonsteel integral component is the ultimate phyto operation. I'd like to get that even better using the stellar integral component. Hopefully I can get a few of these things set up before next episode, and I'll show you how they work. So in order to prepare for next episode, I'm going to need to get a number of bees in order to make these upgrades. I won't make the upgrades this episode, but I would like to get all the bees in preparation so that you can see how they're made. But instead of going through each of the steps, as I have done with all the others, I'm just going to show you what this takes for each of the bees, and then I'm going to make them, because the video is getting long already, and you're probably bored of seeing me just breed bees. So to get the copper bee, I'm going to need crystalline and ashy mining, which I've got. Tin requires crystalline and ashy mining, the same. A quarry bee is simply a chocolate mining bee and a digger bee. An amethyst bee, you just give a amethyst block to a diamond bee. A lead bee is an iron bee and a blue banded bee. An enderium bee is a lead bee and a diamond bee. A prismallium bee is a prismarine bee, which I don't have yet, and a nickel bee. A prismarine bee you need to fish. And a bronze bee is a copper bee and a tin bee. I'm going to get all of those, breed them, pop them in the nests, and then we'll prepare for the last eggs that we need. I've been breeding bees and filling up my nests a bit more, as you can see. And I've got so many different genes here. I've got these ready to optimize my bees. And I've also got all these eggs here ready to turn into these. Before I do that, though, I would like to make a crystallizer and a magma crucible. The crystallizer I need to duplicate the ancient dust, which I'll need energized glowstone for, which is why I need the magma crucible. If I pop some glowstone in there, I'll get energized glowstone. The dust only gives 250, whereas a whole block gives us a full bucket, as you can see there. I'll get those two set up with an auto output, and I'll show you how it works. So this is how I decided to set up the crystallizer and magma crucible. I've got an import-export bus against the magma crucible, which is exporting glowstone and importing energized glowstone. I've set the input and output here to that one. And for the crystallizer, I've set the energized glowstone here with the export bus, come straight into it. And then I've also set the ancient dust here to come straight in. And then for the back, I've put an import bus, which will take the ancient dust that goes in here back into the network. So this just keeps duplicating. So as long as this keeps making the energized glowstone, this will keep duplicating the ancient dust. I can leave that there, and I'll come back to it later on when I want to improve it. In the meantime, I also set up a fluid drawer here, which has got the energized glowstone in there. I'm not making it too fast, but I think I'm making at least one bucket more than I'm using, so it is going up. I did end up making 2 further islands. They were both made similar to this one when we got the villagers. This one is a cascading island, but I did mine out the middle so that it's just a big pond, really. This was just so that I can get anything from fishing. I figured I could just sit here and fish. And then over there, I've made an island deep dark, which was just so that I could get some skulk, and also so I can fight the warden as and when. And I ended up making some skulk bees, which are here. This was just so that I could get echo shards, so that I could make the upgrades as and when I want to. Because when I make one of these upgrades, as you see, we need 16 echo shards. Now, finally, the last thing to do is just turn all of these bee eggs into the last bee eggs that we want. So we've got Twinite bee, we want 5 of those. Melodium bee, we want 5 of those. Same with Dragonsteel. And then energized glowstone. Then there's Stellarium. And then finally, Shellite. There we are. So that should be everything we need for all the parts to upgrade our thermal series machines. And we should be able to get everything going super fast. First of all, though, I need to get all these bees out, give them the traits that they need to be fast, upgrade their beehives, and finally add in the block that they need to be able to actually provide resources. So let's find out what those are. It's looking like I need an induction smelter so that I can get a few of these. So I've made an induction smelter. I will just pop it here. I'll get a couple of augments to speed it up. There we are, that's them. So the first one we're after is a block of melodium, which means we need 9 melodium ingots. So we need chorus fruit, amethyst shard, and gold ingots. So we'll just leave this until we've got enough to make a melodium block, which shouldn't take long. And then we'll move on to the next one. And there we are, that should be enough. And the next one is Twinite, and that just needs a Twinite block, which is just blaze rod, tin, and obsidian. And that should do it. And then we've got Dragonsteel, which needs a block of Dragonsteel. And that's just nickel, ancient dust, and netherite scrap. And there we are. Energized glowstone bee, which looks like it actually just needs a flower. And it looks like it's pretty much any flower. That's helpful. And then it's just Stellarium. And that needs a Stellarium block, clay, netherite, nether stars. There we go. And then finally, a Shellite bee, which just needs a Shellite block. And that's lead, shulker, and nickel. So now that we've got these, I'm going to pop them in the network first. And then I'm going to add some upgrades to the drawers so there's somewhere for them to go. And I'll make it nice and easy. Make a block. And then pop them in the hive where they're going to go. One more I needed to do was also a Prismallium, which is prismarine crystals, and nickel. And there we go, and they're all set up, ready for when they go in. You know what happens next? Let all the bee eggs out, give them all the genes, and pop them in the beehives. I'll not bore you with that, let's skip right to the end. And that's all the bees that I should need now, including all the ones for resource generation, such as gold, emerald, diamond, as well as the ones I'm going to need for all the upgrades to make them super fast, such as draconic. And, to finish off, all the ones that I'm going to need for thermal series, and getting all my thermal series machines extremely fast and efficient. Just to give you an example, here's the Twinite bees, and their very high productivity, any weather tolerance, and metaternal behaviour. Just to show you as well, on the star quests, we've actually finished a few today. We've done the thermal series ones by getting all the ingots. We've done the productive bees one by getting the inactive dragon egg. And we've done the forbidden and arcanus one by getting the Diorum block. So we're moving nice and quickly towards the star. So it's been quite a productive episode, this one. We've got all the bees that we could need. We've got all the genes to get them super productive. We've got the upgrades ready and everything automated within our system. We've got 3 islands. We're ready with the Warden's island so that we can get the resources from the Warden when we need to beat him. And we're ready for the next episode when it comes to thermal series. I appreciate anyone who's made it this far. I've had fun. I hope you guys have. And I'll see you next time.